Welcome to the Terri Talks. I'm your host, Terri Brown, and I'll be talking on Tuesdays with real people about real challenges and solutions in real estate investing. I feel like TD Jakes. Get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready, get ready.
So crazy.
Well, hello, world. Welcome to another episode of Terri Talks. And, let me just say, you are beyond in for a treat tonight. This powerhouse, this rock star, this amazing woman is just, she's not that person that's just going to show up for pomp and circumstance. She's here always. I mean, we were backstage and she was guiding and she was mentoring and she was giving me, some direction. And, but that's who she is. And I definitely believe in this hour, we don't need more statues or, just folks who want to be seen. We want folks who want to be seen, but are being seen with great impact. And as a result of them showing up, they are influential, they are impactful. And for me, they can also help you increase in income. And this woman here embodies all of that, right? She embodies all of that and so much more. And so, what I want you to do, because we don't want folks to miss out, I want you to take a moment and share this. Go on your socials and share it and hashtag Kim Reed. I'm telling you, I think, she's so famous, right?
Oh, stop it. Stop it, stop it.
Chat probably has a whole biography. I mean, the chat is probably overloaded when people research. Teach me how to be like a Kim Reed, and they probably is like the system just goes wonkers and
Yeah,
bonkers.
right. Yeah, right. Oh, please, girl. Oh, stop it. Stop it. I'm just happy to be here with you and your audience. So this is great. I love to see you in your glory, my darling.
Oh man, thank you. And believe it or not, it was folks like yourself who gave me the confidence. I think I've always had passion, but there were times where I lacked the confidence because I didn't come through the ranks like everyone else. And so, I came from homeless to houses now as a real estate investor, and there, as we can imagine, there's a lot in between that. But I've always had a desire for community and personal development amongst young girls, and it doesn't surprise me that the Lord allows me to attract folks like you who are like-minded in that sense. And as I said it privately, I'm going to say it publicly. You are one of the most consistent thought leaders, institutional leaders, church leaders, just, life leader that I know. I have not seen you over, I guess it's about 15 years or so, deviate from who God has called you to be. And instead of backing down, kowtowing, or trying to be someone else, teetering in other people's lanes, you have driven a car and it evolved and changed the gas and got the oil changed, and and just keep upgrading and making the series of a car go from one number to 20,000 gazillion beyond. And I think the world of you. I admire you, and thank you so much for creating and holding space for me, Kim Reed.
Oh, honey, always. Always. And thank you for those flowers. I don't take anything of what you have said, T, lightly. Um, People, I'm going to just tell you now that I'm not going to call her Terry. I call her T. I've known her a long time, as she has mentioned, and she's always been a visionary. And when I was asked by another good friend of ours to be on the board of We Are Seeds, a nonprofit that you had started because of your passion of who you were, who you are, and who God knew you were becoming. And I said, sign me up. And we worked together and did that for some time. And then, to your point, later, you are sitting at the registration desk helping out of the 2025 Visionary Day Party that I host in Philadelphia every spring. And I couldn't be more happy. And I just saw another volunteer, and I told her, I said, I have not forgotten. You all are still going to get dinner on me. And I'm going to take you guys out because it was just wonderful. And I bring that up and I say that, T, because I appreciate you. I know you appreciate me, and I appreciate and thank you for everything you've said. But I also appreciate you, and I think one of the things that we don't do enough as women is continuously lift each other up. If someone is smarter than someone, or someone has hit something out of the park in a great way, it's temporary. Ha ha ha! You're wonderful, and then that jealousy and envy and intimidation start to unnecessarily set in. And that is the shameful part, or the disappointing part to me, with women when we do something fantastic, or we were doing something fantastic, and or wherever God is taking us, you will have your turn as well, as long as you keep a great spirit about others' joy, happiness, and celebration. And I don't understand, it's funny, people, I know this is not the question, but I think that this is a great foundation, because here are two women that have seen each other through different stages, storms, triumphs in their lives, and we have not changed who we are to each other, and publicly or privately. And that is very important. And I will tell you, our dear Mayor, Sherelle Parker in Philadelphia, I was a little teary, getting a little teary when you were talking about consistency, because every time she sees me, that's the same thing she says is, girl, you are consistent. And I laugh, but when someone else says it, that means even more than what it means when our own mayor of Philadelphia says it. So thank you, and thank you for allowing me that time to lift you and celebrate you, and say thank you for having me on, and thank you for the audience for listening.
Yeah. It's like, where do you go? Let's keep talking. Well,
Well,
so
you got a question for me. I
yeah,
know that
I
because
gotta,
I
I
saw
gotta.
the prep notes, but I didn't really look at them. But I saw them, so I know that there's a question coming up about something you mentioned about legacy. So I'm turning. No, T.
I love her. She came in. If anybody knows, or follows Kim, she does this segment. They're on vacation right now, and on break, summer break, where she slides into the room, and she gives
I
her
love doing it.
Monday motivation. And today, backstage, as we were prepping, she slid into the room, and so.
With some drinks. That's terrible. All unprofessional.
No, listen, here. So just a little bit about Terry Talks, and we're gonna dive in.
Oh,
We're Terry Talks, and we talk on Tuesdays about real challenges and solutions with real people about real estate investing and real estate investing. And
yeah.
it's the real talk that I enjoy. Again, I came from the hood, and one thing I say growing up in the projects was that you knew what you were getting, right? And
Yeah.
take it or leave it, but you knew what you were getting. And so I like to bring that synergy here, because again, we live in a world where people are, they camouflage a lot, and even successful people, you never really hear about some of the intricacies of their success. You see all of the glory, but not necessarily tell the story. And so it makes for an audience or people who are watching to see something that seems unattainable, right? But here we talk about it in such a way that you can resonate, not so that you can, sulk in victimization or anything like that, but so that you know that there's someone's been there, and as they have risen, so can you. And so, Kim, you mentioned about We Are Seeds, and just for those who don't know, We Are Seeds is now Resiliency Way, and it's
Yes.
for teen girls and women who were victims of domestic violence. We offer financial literacy and transitional housing, and that housing comes in the way of lease options, lease to own options, or just transitional housing. We know a lot of people stay in violent situations because they lack financial resources, they have financial insecurity and or housing insecurity. And so to avoid folks staying in those conditions and or being human trafficked, the Lord encouraged me to redirect what we were doing with We Are Seeds and rebrand it as Resiliency Way. And so there's a wrong way, there's a right way, and there's Resiliency Way. And I'm grateful that you shared in that time with helping me grow and giving me a footprint to follow, because you were well more advanced than I was. And but you gave me a place to kind of land and tap into so that we could better service the population that the Lord had given us. And so I know a little bit about you, but please share with our audience who you are and the potent oil that you possess.
Ha! The what?
Oh,
Stop it, girl. Stop it. I thank you. Jesus, I need you to come to my house every morning. And it's so funny because you talked about Monday motivation. What I do every Monday. Yes, we are on break until September. And it's so funny. I get DMs. Kim, I think you should come back before September. I'm like, oh my God, guys, I got to write all that stuff. So I need a break. I need to write. But the motivation that I am so blessed and happy that people receive it so well. And we're in the area where I slide, right? So so even though it's a little blurred because it's always that way because we live in the world where we're always on Zooms and always on business things. So, when I'm working from home and if I'm not sitting in my office, which I do have here, I always blur it. But this is where I am. This is where all the sliding and almost taking some L's happen. So, who am I? It's funny. I had the esteemed pleasure to work with some of the baddest women on this side of heaven this past weekend in California for our sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, our leadership seminar. We know that our sister Divine Nine of Delta Sigma Theta had their great conference in DC. And while they were on the East Coast, we were on the West Coast. And during one of my sessions, I was a presenter this year. And in one of my sessions, we talked about being a chameleon. And, I told them, I have many faces. And we all do, right? I am Kimmy on the weekend and Kimmy, at night, when I'm talking to my girlfriends or a guy friend, whatever. I'm also, Kimberly S. Reed, right? And a majority of my day is being that person, the businesswoman, right? The DEIB, diversity, equality, inclusion, and belonging executive and advisor of Reed Development Group. I am so many different people to different people. I'm a, babe, whatever, my name is that particular time. I am that person. And, but the great news about being a chameleon is that a chameleon, you know, we adapt to our environment. But at the end of the day, you are still a chameleon. So at the end of all of those prefixes to my name or in place of, I'm still Kimberly Reed and I'm still Kim, right? I'm still a daughter. I'm still, a friend, a sister. I don't have siblings, but my dear girlfriends are my sisters and sorors and, and all these people. But, the core of who I am from a business perspective, Terry, and I think that's where you were moving towards, is that I am, a DEIB executive that I mentioned. I help companies um, really level up their diversity efforts, and I really transformed a personal story, and I'll share what that story is in a moment. But a personal story into a national respected diversity consultancy firm that I am so blessed that God allows me to do every day for almost 18 years now. And I partner with C suites, executives of large organizations, boards, executive teams to really ensure and embed diversity, equality, inclusion, and belonging into the DNA of global business strategies. I'm also a professional speaker, you know that. I've been on stages from Boston to Dubai, and I've facilitated global summits, and very uncomfortable conversations I've moderated. But there is one goal, right? There's one goal to our work, and I had to turn off my phone because it was ringing. Sorry, but thank God I had the volume down. Lord, that's embarrassing. But anyway, one goal, right? And it's really to help organizations evolve really beyond all the statements that we've seen in the news, right? And really turn what their efforts are into measurable, purposeful, and lasting change. So, they've coined me, I guess, and this is, but again, I'm always more humbled than and surprised in a great way that what God allows me to do, not necessarily what people say, right? But, people have, said, and, I've got earned this global media recognition and the awards, and the distinction of really being one of the most sought after diversity experts. And that's pretty cool. It's not something I posted and all that good stuff. It's just something I've had to kind of sit on, right? Because I'm like, wow, it's kind of big deal, kind of, right? But I don't take any of it for granted, of what God allows
Kinda.
me. Yeah, of what God allows me to do, because that's really what it is. I know I'm a diversity practitioner, so I'm going to say this because we embrace everyone. And I say God a lot. That's whom I serve, and that's whom I believe in, and who I grew up in the church. Um, but there are other people that worship and value other spiritual principles, and that's okay too. But I just wanted you all to know, when I say that, it's because it's everything of me, everything in me, everything that I get to do every day. And so my hope and prayer is that everyone who's listening to you has that person, has that symbol, in their souls as well, to help them grow and to help them be the best that they could be at that moment in time or right now, you know?
Just so eloquent. And right now, I
Terry,
just,
Terry, you know what? But wait
absolutely.
a minute, because they don't give you any sponsorship. So I'm going to turn it around this way. And yeah, because they no, nope, no props until they give you some props. So go ahead.
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, we get ready. So again, I'm going to give everybody another opportunity to go like, share, and comment. We getting ready to take this plane that's getting ready to start ascending. So this is the time to buckle up, buttercups, because we're getting ready to
Love
go
it.
somewhere.
Yep.
And so I'm going to say this, right? There's a thing that I often say inside of my community and outside of my community, which is vision makes the decision.
Yep.
And for you to decide to show up in these spaces and be a voice for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, that has to come from some type of vision. What was the vision? What is the vision? What
There was
happened?
no vision. That was my job in corporate, and yeah, shoot, that was no vision. Yeah, shoot, I graduated college, and I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do, and Child, please. I thought I was gonna be Oprah one time. I was, be an educator, which I am. I teach lecture on college level, but no, it's so funny because people always think, and I'm going to say this and share this on your show. Nobody's ever heard me say this. Everybody thinks that my life is so together. Like, oh my God, Kim, you had such a planned life. No, I didn't. I had great parents that kept me focused and kept me on somewhat of a track. And I say somewhat because my mom, who is no longer with us, she really believed in allowing me to experience life. We traveled together. We did, we always ate fine dining, right? Because she took me to lunch at G Fox, which is downtown Hartford. It used to be, it's no longer at all. We used to go to lunch because my mom worked part time and sometimes she didn't work. And because she wanted to be with me. And we got dressed up and we went to lunch, and then my dad would come pick me up when he got off work and take me to the zoo or whatever. And I will tell you this, and when I become a mom, I remember, all of these examples that have made me who I am because of wonderful parents, grandparents, my family, who always believed in me, right? They always believed in me. But, when you talk about, your question around, you know, my life, because my parents gave me some latitude, because my dad was like, no, you going to college, you're going to get good grades. And one year, my first semester, I didn't bring any. He said, so, okay, your choices are you come live with me and your mama, and you're going to community college. Now, there's nothing wrong with community college, but I was living up La Vida Loca in my 4-year university, right? So to say to come back home to live with them and and to go to community, that was like, no, like I'm gonna get my life together. I'm not gonna go out. Like I'm not doing any of those things. I'm gonna get back into the books because Rhyme Reed has spoken. And so, my dad is living. He is my living hero. People know that, who know me. But, I think, Terry, it is unequivocally the foundation that my parents had given me to allow me to try new things. College was a must. That just was a must. Both of my parents are college educated. My dad went back later in life, but my mom went to a historically black college and university. She pledged sorority, which is AKA, which is why I am, and and many other things that she accomplished in her life, and I watched her do that, right? And as a black woman living in Boston, in the 70s and then going to Connecticut, I also saw my mom, have to prove herself, right? To prove who she was, to prove the brilliance that she had. My mom worked at MIT. People know that's a top school in Boston. And, being in the 60s where my mom was there, late 60s, is this, you know, the stories that she would share and what other people told me. Because I think when you're living your life, you still are building a legacy. It's your living obituary, right? So going back to the point that I made about people thinking my life is just, so focused and so planned out, that was far, far from the truth. But at some point of our lives, T, we do got to get it together, right? We got to get it together, period. And so for me, when I moved out of my parents' house after college, I had a lot of fun. I had a boyfriend. I mean, we lived together. Child, it was fun, right? But and that's what you're supposed to do in your 20s. You're supposed to do that. I did it in my 30s, and then when I was started to work at global organizations like PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte. I worked on Wall Street. You start to mature. You have to, right? And you start to build your plan of, is this what I want to do with my life? Because in my 20s and in your 20s, it's the time, in your audience's 20s, it's the time to kind of decide, okay, I want to do this. Now I want to do this because I told you I wanted to be Oprah. I still do, right? But I told you all, yeah, I told you I wanted to be Oprah. I wanted to be a talk show host, but I was like, yeah. And then I wanted to be a news anchor. Yeah, and because Gail King, her best friend, Oprah's best friend, lived in Glastonbury, lived in Glastonbury, Connecticut, and so I even had a call with her, and because I was doing a paper, and Oprah was the topic, and she was graciously enough, she called this little girl back, and I spent 10, 15, 20 minutes with her to ask her questions about Oprah. I had to be like 14 years old, 13, 14 years old. And, I have to tell her one day, guess I'll say it in social media or something and tag her, but yeah. And she really changed my life in the trajectory of, yes, I still wanted to be Oprah, but listening to all of Oprah's accomplishments at that time in that era really said to me, like, I can be whoever I want to be. And my parents said that, and I could do whatever I want to do. And I'm going to fail along the way. And I did. And we all do. We fail more. We are more, put it this way, you're going to fail far more in life than you succeed. And I did that. And so that's what people see now is all of the failing, all of the, I think I'm going to do this, but I don't. And I was in corporate and I was making great money. And then I was poor when I first became an entrepreneur. And then now, I'm a high, but you know what I'm saying? But, so it's that trial and error, and it's those ebbs and flows of life essentially is what people see, and what people have to understand, that that's what they're going to go through, and allow yourself to go through that. You are not perfect. I'm not perfect. But you can get to a point of your life where you feel peaceful, joyful, and your purpose is met.
I feel like saying amen past the offering plate.
Well, go on past it
Um,
and get you some more grapes. They were $9. I'm feeling some type of way about them grapes. Girl, I'm feeling some type of way about those grapes being $9. When I bought them yesterday, when she said, when she rang $9, I said, what? Some grapes? But I got them anyway, girl, because you never go to the grocery store hungry. You buy everything.
Well, but listen, I listen. Thank God you were able to afford them grapes and more to come. So I get it. I get it that that wasn't the vision, but you could once you transitioned, you could have went in a different direction altogether. But you stayed the course on that path. So my question is, in this world, so we here at Terry Talks, we've been exploring from the top of the year with the new administration and just things that we've seen happening
I'm
in
sorry.
our world. Very, very, and I don't even want to say it was subtle because we were told, we were warned. It
Oh, no
was,
question. No question.
it was spoken in plain view.
Yes.
But we started exploring a few of these topics just from a place of, come on, I really wanted to empower the people to go after more, right? And so our first series was, the state of us, like, what is happening with us. And then our second season was, why haven't we cornered the market? And so my question to you, why haven't Black folks cornered the market? My question to you, landscape, stages, platforms, life for some, as they have known it, has drastically changed or is drastically changing.
Oh, yeah.
What's an empowering word you would give in this moment and why?
Hmm. Hmm. Empowering word. I mean, people think that empowerment is my middle name, but sometimes I need it too, right? Sometimes I need it too. I love the word hope. I love the phrase, this too shall pass. This is the month that my mom passed away, July 31st, 2012. Um, worst day, worst day it will ever be in my life. I'm sure of it. But I don't have a child yet, so people say a death of a child is excruciating. But until that day happens, my mother and my dad, if when God decides to call him home, those will be, you know, those are, and it was for me, for my mother, um, the most excruciating day of my life. And I say that because I'm not bringing it the I don't I'm not bringing the vibe down, but I think people have to understand where someone comes from and how they think. And when you ask that question, T, and ask me again, because I did get caught up in the rapture of thinking about my mom. I did. Yeah, I did.
Well, let me just hold space for you in the moment. You may know, I'm kind of a private person, so I haven't shared a lot, and I don't share it a lot. But my mother passed the day before Thanksgiving, 2024, so that wound is still very fresh and
Oh,
is
Terry.
open.
Oh, T, I'm so sorry.
And no,
I,
that's
I
okay.
know that pain all too well, so I'm so sorry.
No, thank you. And so, and at her memorial, I said, because she was, I am. And if there's nothing else to be celebrated, it's, I can celebrate and I can pitch a tent there, and know that, this is legacy. There are some things that were in our bloodline that was great and has, cultivated me and propelled me to this place in life. And so I just want to hold space for you, and let you know that I'm virtually wrapping my arms
And
around
same
you.
with you, honey, because honey, a year when it was a year for when it was less than a year for me, oh my God, I was a zombie. I was functioning in life. I had to, right? And my dad, I'm an only child, and my dad needed me. He lost the love of his life. They were married almost 50 years before my mom passed. So, we have to show up and be strong anyway. And my dad would have allowed me to do what I needed to do, but I did it in private, and some of my closest friends know, the agony that I went through and that I still go through, right?
Sure.
Every single day, I think about my mom every single day. People say I look like her. People say I look like her. People, say I move like her, I dress like her, I talk like her, I laugh like her, my energy level is like her. Well, yeah, because I watched all of that and all of her splendor. She is the most extraordinary woman that I will ever know in my entire existence. And, so when you ask that question, T, of vision and refocus again, vision, and you asked, thank you.
So sure, no problem. The question was, you know, as we know it, and for most, the landscape, stages, just platforms, life
Oh,
circumstances, and
yes, yes.
based on a new administration has changed or changing. And if folks aren't being wasn't or isn't being directly impacted by it, they are indirectly being impacted by it. And so, what is an empowering word you would give
Yes.
in this
Yes,
moment,
because that's
and
how we
why?
got on my mom. Yes, that's how we got on
Yes.
my mom. Because my mom. So let me stage this again the right way. So when my mom was in the hospital for 45 days before she passed away, and every every day for 45 days, my mom had me bring her brush, her gloss, her special Tiffany earrings, and I had to put her hair in a ponytail because she didn't wear a wig or anything. She just wore her regular hair, but it had to be in a ponytail because of being in the hospital. And so I did that. And every morning when I came, my mom would say, I said, "How you feeling, Mom?" She's like, "Just fine, 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 fine. Woo!" By Mary J. Blige. That's why I use that song a lot when I
I was
am
gonna say, come through, Mary, come through,
yes,
Mary.
yes, when I am speaking. But my mom, that was our signal that she was doing okay, even when she wasn't. My mom was pouring into individuals at her darkest hour. I walked in the room one time and I was wondering where all the nurses were, and they were all up in my mother's room, child. My mom was reading the Bible. They were talking about life. They were talking about men. My mom was dispensing advice and she was empowering people. So I watched that in addition to all my life, but I watched that for 45 days and it changed my life in the sense of that I'm going to have bad days. I mean, shortly thereafter, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, but I was going to have bad days, right? But it ain't that bad. Because, and I think that's why I built my resiliency. I built my strength. And I think some people who think they know me don't really understand that fact of joy. I have joy because of what I've gone through. People have tried to break me, of course. That's not woe is Kim. That's just life. People do that, right? People have tried to break me, and they just don't understand that they can't. Not because I'm protected from the shield of God, but because of what I personally had to endure. And, it is so I say that to say the following phrases. One, hope. Know that there's hope. There is hope for us to be able to change, for this nation to be able to change in a split second or in 3 years. It all depends on the lessons that we need to learn, not understand them, but learn and change. The second is this too shall pass. My mom, the doctor used to say to my mom, to me and my dad, that, your mom's doing good, right? Because we didn't know she was going to die. She didn't know, but she got a hospital pneumonia. That's what put her over the edge. But on the meantime, there was some things that my mom went through that I know that hurt her in the sense of pain wise. That some days she probably didn't feel well. She didn't feel well to pour into people. And sometimes, it's hard for me to show up, right? But then I think about, because, you're just tired or, just one day you're not feeling it, right? And then I think about my mom and watching her those 45 days. And she always would say, this too shall pass. Because I said, Mommy, how are you feeling today? She's like, oh, Kim, a little different than fine, fine, fine. But this too shall pass. Her last 2 days on this earth, I went into her room every morning. My dad and I, we had shifts. And my shift was in the first morning because the doctor would always share with me or my dad and I that it's hard to diagnose if my mom is her pain or diagnose her levels of pain because, or if she's not feeling well, because she always had her hand on the Bible and she always said, this too shall pass. And so when my mom caught the um, hospital pneumonia, she didn't say this too shall pass until probably it got worse, right? So that's an oxymoron. Usually people say this too shall pass when it's okay, but it was about to kill her. And she still said, this too shall pass. So when Trump went into office and rattled the nation in some areas, and one of the areas was our work in diversity. And in the beginning, I'm human. I was nervous. I was scared about what's going to happen, not to our industry, but to people, including me, because I'm an African American woman. And I remembered my mom in my ear, because that's where she sits sometimes, and says, Kimmy, this too shall pass. And so those are the two phrases of empowerment. But I think the last phrase, and I just thought of this just this moment, because I was working with some students 2 weeks ago. They're interns for a particular program called Wesco Fellows for a board that I'm on called Vested in West Philadelphia. And these kids, I said to them, I talk specifically about certain things every summer. And one of the things that they develop is their I am statements. And I am, what comes after that are the most powerful words that you can describe yourself, for yourself. So, for example, I am enough. I am resilient. Whatever those words are after I am, that has to be embedded over practice in time and repetition into your soul, that you do know that you're enough. So, T, three things: hope, two, this too shall pass. And whatever narrative you put after each is adopted to your own. And third, I am. And figure out one word, just start there, that will change the way you think, because mindset is changing a mindset. You know this, you do financial literacy, you teach wealth. I can have $1 in my pocket, and I had at one point in my life, and I still was wealthy. I didn't want to call my parents, but I was wealthy because the way I talked, the way I dressed, and I knew I wasn't going to stay there. I wasn't always embedded into God's principles the way I am now, because sometimes I think it's growth in my 20s, right? Because I was clubbing, partying, whatever. I still do, but in a different way. And, as you get older, life changes you. Shortly after my mom passed, I was diagnosed with, and my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, all very close knit family, everybody, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and stage two, and it was treatable, right? And then in the winter of 2013, it metastasized to stage four, and my life expectancy was 5 to 7 years, and it's 13. God said, I am the way. You listen to me. And that is now in my rear view. So everything I do, my survivorship is embedded in women and people that are also going through, to show them that they can win too.
Well, that's awesome. I listen, I want us to take a moment and right where you are. And again, this is a great place to share this live with folks, because again, I said we were ascending, but we getting ready to go deep. But what
That's
before
right.
we as we get ready to go deep, I want you all to not only share, text your friends, text somebody, a woman, a man, someone who needs to, they're feeling the weight of the world right now,
Mm,
and they're trying to understand how to navigate it, because in the circles that they may live in, no one is really talking about it. They're not having the candid conversations. A lot of people are suffering silently. We don't want that. That's unnecessary suffering. And so we want you to go out and pump this out, share it out, invite someone right now, share it on your socials. And let us dive into this conversation, back into this conversation. And while you're doing that, I would like for everyone here thus far, or so far presently, to do an I am statement. And I would like for you to drop it in the chat, share it, right? Because there is power in our words. There's a scripture I read the other day, and this talks about in Matthew's how your word can either
yeah.
condemn you
Yep.
or it can set you free,
Yep.
right? And so as we're talking about these, very moments that we're living in, and for some, it's triggering anxiety, some is triggering anger, but our guest today, our phenomenal guest tonight, gave us three places, for me, posture and positions that we can take that not only can relieve the anxiety and relieve the anger, but don't allow it to paralyze you so that you don't move forward, because
Oh,
they
right.
have
Oh, yeah. You can't
the
dwell there. No,
propensity.
no. You
You,
can't dwell there. That's victimization. Now that's a transformation of being a victim. You cannot, we're going to go through life. My mom she told me that every morning, when I used to go in her room at 7 a.m., is that, we're going to go through life. And I said this over the weekend, it's called life's ecosystem. That means that you are going to something, you are in something, and you're going out of it. That's life's ecosystem. So you right now, you could be walking to something. that you've got to deal with and go through. Whatever whatever level that is, we don't know that, right? But you're going to walk to something, everybody. And then whatever that is, you got to be in it, right? However long God has you in it, you're going to be in it, right? To show you lessons, whatever, to even maybe it's a great thing for you, right? But then if it's a challenge, you're going to walk out of it, right? And then you might be out of something for 3, 4, 5 years or 2 days. And then you're back into going to something. So life's ecosystem is to, through, and out. And that is that whole thing. That is the life's ecosystem. And
I
so
love
how you deal with it is based upon resilience. It is based upon your mindset. And sometimes, though, which we all do or have done, me included, is sometimes you dwell there. Whether it is a breakup, whether it is, cancer for me, or whatever people have gone through. When you are healing, that is your approval to continue to keep walking boldly. But when you decide or do not heal or go back to what continues to hurt you, then you are dwelling in it. So you have to decide when you go through whatever it is in life. And I am no expert because I've gone through stuff. I've gone through stuff recently, right? Within the last year and a half, that I thought that I would never, ever go through or deal with from a person and, or persons, right? And I did, but I walked through it. It wasn't easy, but I had to walk through it. And, then you go to it again. But as I mentioned, in the point that I really want to make and drive home is that you can't dwell in your crap. Can't dwell in your crap. You've got to figure out a way to fix it. You have to figure out a way to pull everything you've got and keep walking. Because T, when my mom passed, I could have stayed in my bedroom in my condo, or I was living in a townhome at the time when my mom passed, and I could have stayed there every day with all the window shades closed and just sit in the dark. But my mom's voice, and not in this order, and God did not allow me to dwell there. So it's not easy. I want people to understand that life's trials and tribulations are not easy, but they're not meant for you to dwell there.
They are not meant for you to dwell there. And one of the things you said earlier as we transition was that, sometimes you may not even understand it, but that doesn't give you the right to stay where you are.
That's
Right.
right.
And in fact, I believe, as long as God gives us this gift called life, it's because we still have purpose in this world. And there's still some work that's left to be done.
For sure.
And so thank you, for sharing that. And really, I'm sure you have located a few folks who, they're feeling it. But here's the thing: you want to stay tapped in, stay connected. She said, whatever you had, whatever it takes, to keep on moving forward. And episodes and shows like these, empowerment ones, and communities, we have our own internal community, of like-minded people who are trying their level best to constantly increase and impact, influence, and income, and using real estate as a vehicle
Mm-hmm.
to do that.
Yep.
And so it's communities like those that keep help you keep the main thing the main thing. It does not mean we don't feel things, right?
Right.
But it keeps you in motion. And I believe, just biblically, most of my audience know I'm a woman of faith, and I believe that, people say, how do you keep on moving with the death of your mother? Because God, a lot of people Jesus healed as they went.
That's right.
So there's something to be said about that. And I think that for most of us, because healing looks different
Oh, for sure.
for everyone, it is, it's not a cookie cutter, kind of template, right? Everybody heals different, everybody feels different, everybody looks different, right? But one thing I can say, by way of a mode and a method to not land in victimization, is understanding that Jesus did heal a lot of folks as they went, as they stayed in motion. And I say this a lot because I believe this. I experienced it myself, and I've walked this out. It is hard to hit a moving target. It is easier to hit a target that is standing still.
That's
And
right.
so if you stay in motion, right, it lessens the blow, and it gives you more momentum and allows you to heal, I believe, easier and a little bit quicker, right? Because there's no time in lingering and where you've been, but you are setting your sights on healing and growing and evolving. And so that becomes yours, for the taking. So, Kim, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
um and so we're here in this climate, this our the political economic landscape, and folks are trying to figure this thing out.
Hmm.
And I love, what you said about, just this notion of staying in motion.
Yes.
You get an opportunity to travel around the world, travel in different spaces and places, from the C-suite executive to the new entrepreneur, and you're in diverse spaces and places. What are you seeing on the ground, and the impact, that it may be or may not be having, and what is the appropriate response? So I know, on a personal development level, and from this place of empowerment, you've laid out an awesome blueprint, a 3 point, blueprint for how to navigate that. But there are people who are living, through these in these organizations, in these companies. They are, just, or they're entrepreneur, and we know redlining, and just this, this way of intentionally trying to disenfranchise, and all of that. What is the appropriate response tangibly in this moment?
So there's a couple of things. A couple of things I would say. One, it goes back to hope too. It goes back to hope for sure. Because, you, the person, are not broken. You're being built, right? Because a lot of times when we say we go through things and going through that life's ecosystem, whether we're in business or we're in life, right? Those two worlds are interchangeable, our business life and our professional life. And so you have to understand that you are not broken. You're being built. Our survival is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of our impact. So, what I would say to people is give yourself radical permission to pause. Success really means nothing if your soul is starving. Success, none of it. I see people on social media all the time. Oh, they're winning, they're this, they're that, they're this, they're this, or whatever. Cool. But success or the triumphs in your life mean nothing if your soul is starving or if you are unhappy at your core. We have to prioritize peace.
Kim, and I know you can master this and you can deal with this, and I know you won't lose your thought. Can you repeat that? That was so profound. Repeat
Oh
what you
wow,
just
thank you.
said.
Because I lived it. I live it. I lived it. You know, excuse me. Success means nothing. Make sure I say it right. Means nothing if your soul is starving, right? So when people are on, I use social media because a lot of us, I'm assuming, and a lot of your audience spend a lot of time on social media. And you see some people's lives are amazing all the time, right? Because that's the brand or the persona that they want to portray on social media. And then you see people who are real with it, right? And you see not their deep and darkest secrets. I'm not suggesting you share that. I don't. But what I will do is, yeah, sometimes I'm woo, but sometimes I'm not, right? And sometimes you have people using these phrases, that they're on top and they do everything from the muscle and that they are winning and and they might be, right? I'm not saying everybody who says that is not telling the truth, but what I am saying is, don't feel badly if you are not, if you don't think you think you're supposed to be somewhere you're not, right? Some people get upset because they say, wow, I started life late, I probably should be farther along in my life, I should have made more money, or my heart got broken and I had to pivot and whatever, right? But I want people to understand this fact when they see who they think they should be, is when someone says they're successful and they're winning all the time or on occasion, they're not. You don't have to say it. You feel it. You move like it. And people know that. People will know. In your smile and pictures, people will know that you're genuinely happy or not, right? And who cares what people think? But the point that I am making is that there are so many people that get insecure with who they are because they don't know who they're supposed to be. So success means nothing if your soul is starving or if you are unhappy with who you are at your core. So you have to prioritize your peace. That's winning. Winning is being kind to people when the camera is off. Being kind, and I say this because I had to say this recently to a friend. Somebody is always mean to you, they're not happy. If a person is always mean or they're yelling or they've got this nasty behavior, they're not happy at their core. I don't care what they tell you. So I think that we have to understand that there's one mirror, and that's between us and us. And you got to be true to yourself about who you are and when success is going to mean something to you because you are genuinely happy with who you are and who you're becoming.
Shoosh, hot fire flames.
but Terry, but T, I will say this though, because you asked me something else. I want to make sure I answer that for your audience. People, we're all concerned about our futures in one way or the other. Financial, some people worry about their health because they don't have health insurance. Stability because or things are expensive. I went to the Whole Foods yesterday, the same place where I got those $9 grapes, but not Whole Foods. Because I went to three different stores yesterday, but I was in Whole Foods getting guacamole because I love their guacamole and I try to make it. That's why I keep tasting it so I can make it myself, right? Sorry, Whole Foods. But anyway, I had like four things on on the conveyor belt. And when she finished, she was like, $62. I'm like, sweetie, did it, it's four things. And I laughed. We both laughed. I was joking with her. I was like, oh my God. So that's all that's real, right? I joke about it, but that's real. And it concerns me because, this is summertime, DEI. I don't know where it's going. And I got to save my money, right? And, I've got to save things because I'm like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. So here's what I would say to anyone that is concerned about the future, health, stability, because I'm thinking through this right now. You got to start where you are. Where you are. Think about where you are in this moment. You got to start where you are. You got to with what you have, and protect your mindset like your life depended on it, because it does. The moment you let yourself slip into that rabbit hole or that black hole, it is a wrap. And do not let anyone else tell you that you can't, that you ain't, that you isn't, that you are all of these negative objectives. You are a bad person, bad mom, friend, what? No, you're not. You are, if you are, then you need to own that. Okay. Because I don't know everybody. I don't know all the audience and stuff. But if you know at your core that you are doing your best every single day, tell that person that Kim Reed said, I'm gonna keep it PG.
It's like, not Kim get ready to fire up something to say,
No,
and then
because I don't like mean people. You know why? Because I don't like mean people. And mean people often prey on people that can be manipulated. Mean people prey on people that they have insecurities and they know it, and they prey on people they can control. And I see so many amazing women and amazing men, right? Because I'm not going to keep the men out of this. Amazing men that could be more amazing than they are, but they're constantly duped in the sense of that. Put it this way: you got to watch how a person their body language when you say something great that you've done. That's the first thing I watch, because then I shut it down. If your body language and your energy, and I'm telling you something that you is celebratory, and that I celebrate you, and you celebrate me, and but this your body language is off, then I stop the conversation. Because either I'm triggering something in you that you wish you would have done better in your life, or you're just not happy for me because you don't want to be. And also, too, I think that people know who they can do certain things to. And so I think when we're talking about empowerment, empowering your life, you got to talk about the whole spectrum, T, as we are, that everyone is not going to look out of your life with rose colored glasses. They're just not. People aren't built like that. Some people are, because of what they've gone through in their lives or where they are right now, or they can't see their future being bright. But sometimes people are happier when they can control you or when they have you under a particular thumb. Here's something that I was going to say. It was so funny. I'm trying to stay off Monday motivation, but one of the things came to me is, when you outrun people's expectations of you, sometimes it's a bad day for others, not you.
I'm like, getting ready to say, I'm ready to throw my shoe at you because it's like people are going with that, but no, it is a bad day for them, and that leads me to this. Part of the reason your work is so important. Um, but when you think about, I know you're a woman who subscribes to our rich history, and that's our Black culture, that's our Black excellence. Uh, so this question is two parts. Why do you subscribe to it? And when you see intentional efforts to erase, to eradicate, to eliminate that, how do you balance your response while still doing the work? Right. So I know you're in the trenches. You're helping people navigate some of these worlds. They blatantly have. There are constructs that are intentional to not only try to erase or continue to erase or eradicate and eliminate, getting rid of books and things like that. But to speak to your previous comment about staying in motion and all of that, right? You are doing that while doing this work and kind of addressing some of these, or at minimum, I believe, don't know the extent of everything, helping folks navigate this world. How do you maintain the balance of your response while still doing the work?
Hmm.
Is that your response, by continuing to do the work, or
Yeah. It's funny. I'm just thinking that's an excellent question. I'm just thinking about it in the sense of that I'm never going to stop. God said that this is until God says, Kim, this is not your purpose anymore. Go do something else. Okay. But until then, I'm going to make sure that I'm at every seat that I can be at the table. I'm going to make sure that I'm advocating for uh, people of color, specifically African Americans, because I'm African American. My daddy is African American. My mother is African American. My grandmothers are African American. So, um, you know, I, like I said, I think the quickest, the shortest answer is I'm never going to stop until God says stop. In the meantime, do I want to bite my tongue? Of course I do. 2020 was a test of my endurance because I was upset for 2 weeks after the murder of George Floyd. I didn't want to do this work. Why? Like I didn't like people. I didn't like the people that were responsible. I didn't like the color of the people that were responsible. I didn't like it. I grew up in Boston and Connecticut. But at that moment, I am not proud of it, but I didn't like people. But I still had this, I had to say, you know what, Kim, after the 2 weeks of licking my wounds, you got to get back and do this work. And it wasn't all people that of one color that did it. It wasn't, you got to get it together. And anger, you got to take that angry mask off and deal with the reality of the world and go in here and do this work so people after you that look like you can have opportunities and have their dreams met like you did. And so I also say, T, that we've always we've always had enough brilliance, enough resilience, enough power. What we need now is unity without ego and strategy without apology. That's what we need. That's the ingredient. That's the formula. Because we've always had enough. We always been dope. Always. Always.
Always.
Always.
Her.
We have always been enough. We've always had enough. We always had, like I said, we always had enough brilliance, power, resilience. We always had it. We are some of the most creative people on the planet because we will navigate something. We don't have, if we don't have, I remember one time me and my girlfriend Chelsea Murphy, we were in high school together, went to Windsor High School together. And we and her was, sneaking, seeing boys. That's, I'm not proud of it. We did it, whatever. Had fun. And she almost ran out of gas. And we would have had to call our parents and they would have known we weren't in school and blah, blah, blah. So Chelsea and I must have dug under her seats, her trunk. I went in the bottom of my pocketbook. She went in the bottom of hers. And we got together 50 cents. So I should tell you, because that was 1989. And we put gas in her car to get us home so we could look like we went to school. And we did. We always have been creative. We always, and that wasn't, I'm not saying that was creativity, but that was survival, right? Because we didn't want to get in trouble. But you got this gist of what I meant. So we also have to understand that diversity and the words that are associated with diversity, especially belonging, and that's a human need. We all want to feel like we belong. People crack me up when they say they don't need people, they don't need a network, they don't need this, they don't whatever. The human behavior embedded in your DNA, in your mind, says that we all want to feel a sense of belonging, a sense of not being liked, because sometimes, I mean, as you get older, because I know I don't care anymore, but because I know that I'm a good person. But I do have a sense of belonging, strong one. Not only because I'm in the work, but because that's my human need. So belonging is not a buzzword. It's a battleground, right? So you have to fight for everybody, especially where we are now in certain groups. They have to fight for it with strategy. Again, it goes back to strategy because I think that how you move is very important. The lessons that you've learned and how you apply them to the next stages of your life are so important. So you have to fight for your existence, your survival with strategy, heart, and unwavering conviction. Whatever you believe in, whatever you advocate and stand for, stand on it. I'm so proud of us in what we did as a collective community with Target. They suffered because we stood for something with unwavering conviction. I still don't go, and I'm
Mm,
not.
mm.
So, therefore, we have to be very mindful. People, no one's going to save you unless you have conviction of what it is you believe in. Nobody's going to believe in you personally, because if you don't walk and talk with conviction of who you are and who you aspire to be, and that people are a part of that equation, your kindness is a part of that equation, no one's going to stand tall for you. No one. And it's the fault of your own.
You are absolutely right. And I ain't been back in Target. I ain't going in Target. And part of one, my resolve being in law enforcement, it used to be a thing, or it's still a thing.
Mm-hmm.
They bank on waiting us out
Mm-hmm.
because they've seen protests, and that means nothing to them, right? And so they're okay with the this I call it selective outrage,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because we don't have it around year round in most circles when it comes to education, when it comes to housing insecurity, all of the other things that affects us, food deserts, and just having quality foods in our neighborhoods. But when there's a unfortunate police shooting, and that's sensationalized, and I can speak to both sides because I've been black. I am black, and
Ah, yes.
I've been blue. And so but my point is, and to your point of staying the course, they bank on, oh, that'll be outrage for a little bit, it'll go away, we'll
Mm-hmm.
wait them out. And so I'm proud of you, I'm proud of me, and I invite our community at large to stay the course.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so they power is lodged into money.
Mm-hmm.
And if we stay on the side of consumerism and not on the side of ownership, it's going to be a heavy lift to really make some significant gains in the areas that impact us, not just presently. I mean, they've impacted us historically, and they will continue if we don't continue to take positions, and have them last, right? So big ups to that. We're coming in for a landing, but I have a couple of things.
Sure.
So as we, I want to get your feedback. I am going to ask you two things. I'm going to make a comment that was spoken, and it's so relative to what we're talking about. And this comment came from Nicole Hannah Jones, and it was during the time where it was that the project that they I believe kind of openly started this really this demonizing of Black history and
Oh,
just some other things. And it's the 1619 project that she was in charge of. And for many of you who may not know, but she's a professor. She was a professor. And she lost her tenure, qualified, and all of that. But because she decided to promote a particular project that would call out a few things that spoke to historic racism and very present day racism, they decided that she didn't deserve that tenure. And so she took her, she packed up her bags and she went I believe, to Howard, and she started there a department there. And someone, I think it was Gail King, who was
hmm.
interviewing her, and she said, well, why didn't you stay? I feel like it was North Carolina, or somewhere down there, the school, the college that she was, the university that she was fighting for her tenure at. And she said, it is not incumbent upon me to explain to the oppressor on how to treat me, because it was posed like, well, you should stay there and kind of teach them what's happening, right? And she, and I remember her hearing her say that, and it resonated so well, because it's like they already know, right? And when I say they, of course, that's sort of, we're not, we're generalizing. Let me just say I'm generalizing, right? And so, I feel like sometimes I have to say being pro-black doesn't make me anti-white, but I'm transitioning out of feeling like I have to say that, right? I want to get your response to the comment that she made, and when you hear that, how does that resonate with you or not? And so let me give the
In the
exact.
comment, just so I'm clear, because she said a lot. So the comment you're asking me about is, why didn't she stay there and teach them?
No, so she was asked why she didn't stay to
Right,
teach
right.
them, and her response was the exact phrase. Let me, I think I'll have it up. Is I wrote it. I do not have to explain to the oppressor how to
Oh
treat me.
yes. Hmm. Yeah, you do. This is Kim Reed's opinion, because I'm in this work. We would not be able to help companies see what is a business imperative without education. Some people's experience with diversity is their black friend down the street. And if their black friend down the street isn't you or me, right? And they conduct their lives a different way, that's their experience. I lived in Boston. I also lived in Connecticut. I lived in Pennsylvania, and I lived in New Jersey. And I experienced racism and forms of racism, plural, in all areas I live in. I live in a wonderful development now. And when it was time to vote for the President of the United States, we became a little divided, but still respectful and still a safe and wonderful place to live. However, the people that were going to vote for that voted for the current president had words and things to say, and they were excited when he won. I was not going to explain to anyone why I did not vote for the President of the United States. I'm not going to explain to people. What I will do is educate people and advocate for what I am convicted for. Because we said something early on, consistency. I'm not going to, just because we lost, I'm not going to stop talking about advocacy. Clients depend on us, organizations depend on us to guide them in the right way and to educate them along the way. I go back to a story, and a brief one, I'll truncate it for this conversation, of why I do this work in the first place. One of the reasons. My grandmother and grandfather lived in Monroe, Louisiana. My grandmother had several children. They had several children together, one of which is my daddy. But while my grandmother was pregnant with my grandfather was wrongly accused by a white woman that he was mean to her and wouldn't take her across the lake in a boat, her and her friend. My grandfather worked for a boating company. And so he can only take cargo in the boats because of safety issues. And my grandfather said to the young ladies, "I'm sorry, I can't, it was, can't take you because of safety issues. And I want you to be safe." And one of the women, young girls, the owner of the company was her father. So she went and told her father and others that my grandfather was mean to her, and that he wouldn't take her across the lake because he was just didn't want to do it and was mean. So my grandfather got off of work and went home. And there was some very strong knocks at the door of several hours later. And they were white men. Some wore sheets, some did not. And they dragged my grandfather out of his home. My grandmother pregnant, chasing after these men, and the my father's sisters, my aunts that were there at the time, all ran out to the front yard where they brought him, and they beat him to death. My grandmother and and after they beat him to death, my father's brother, big brother, my uncle Emmanuel, was standing there and watched it. Now, he was a spicy one. He was the fighter, taught my dad to fight. They all spicy. But he saw that. So I'm gonna stop the story because you can imagine when my uncle found them, he was not happy with any of them. And my grandmother knew it the next morning or the next day or two. And in the middle of the night, she took all her children, pregnant with my dad, and drove from Monroe, Louisiana, and ended up in Cleveland, Ohio, where she lived out the rest of her life until she died at 104. So one of the reasons why I'll always be a Reed, and when I get married, I will hyphenate. But I will always be a Reed because there's so much power in that name. Because of what my grandmother sacrificed and her resilience. So Terri, I'll be all right. Because this woman went and drove her family to connect to Ohio and lived her life and taught my father and her sisters, they were entrepreneurs, all successful kids. When she could have been bitter and mean and nasty. She didn't choose that life. She didn't choose that power or that energy to be taken over her soul. So guess what? Neither am I. And I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep educating. I'm going to keep advocating, but I will not be disrespected. There's a difference. So everyone's life has a different story of why they stay in things, why they work in certain areas, all of it. And I'm not downing any of it. But for me, because I know that story and I know the resilience that it took in the 40s to be a Black woman who looked white, no, I'm going to be all right. It's 2025 and it's still racism, but I have more opportunities. I have education so I can fight and I have the tools to do so.
Listen, you I'm not sure. Well, you don't know because we haven't talked about this, but you've given me a different resolve today. And because my reflex is, why we got to still educate these folks, these jokers in
I
2025?
know. I
How,
know.
however, however, it is what if what I feel taking that posture allows me to stay in control. If I don't take that position, then I have the I'm susceptible to being drugged with this whole with all of it, the anxiety, the anger, and all of that. So it is, how do you, how do you want to move forward? How do you want to, what do you want your legacy to be? And so you have helped me, and I believe that you have helped our audience. And instead of me leaning on them jokers, already know it's blatant, and I feel
Yeah,
like
and T, listen, they do know, right? And I'm not educating anybody on my hair. I'm not educating anybody on anything, right? I am going to educate them on what they need to know for me to win, for us, meaning as Black people. Let me say this to you in your audience. This is this the final thing I will say about this piece of it. People are familiar with checkers and chess, I hope. Well, I'm a chess player. Why? Because see, bottom of chess pieces have felt. Why? So they can move quietly. But the king and the queen, once you hit checkmate, you've won. But it may take a few hours. For us, it may take a few days, years. But you move chess pieces quietly with strategy, consistency, focus. And very few chess pieces are shaken when you jump over it. They're still standing strong. They're still the queen, the king. And then if at some point, it's checkmate. People who play checkers, I can hear them a mile away because they're loud. There's no strategy to checkers. You could jump over people, you take their checkers, it's great. But there's no felt at the bottom, they're just loud. And 9 times out of 10, you know when you're going to lose with checkers because they're so loud and there's no strategy. And okay, you took all my checkers. So you got to think about who you want to be and what you are in life. Are you a checkers player or are you a chess player? If you are a chess player, maybe it's time for you to if you play checkers, maybe it's time for you to take up chess.
listen, y'all, if I know you always say she's so preachy, so Bible, it is my life. But if you have an ear to hear, I need you to hear not only what Kim is saying, but the spirit of the living God through Kim. She just ended with a challenge, and if you're going to shift, if you and I are going to shift from where we are to where it is we really want to be. I mean, this whole episode was riddled with a lot of shifters.
Wait a minute,
And
Terry. Terry? People think you're preachy.
yeah,
I think
they,
you're preachy, but okay, go on.
I mean, and I don't care, like whatever, right? But sh- listen, if this is one of those episodes, again, if you're in a pivotal time in your life, we are in a pivotal time in history. There is, again, a lot going on. And, wherever you find yourself, if you came here and you often listen to these episodes to get what your next steps is. This woman of God, this phenomenal woman, laid out so much tonight. I mean, this was pure substance. And you really should go back and listen to it. I think you need to share it out with some folks, even if they say they don't need it, or sometimes people don't even know what they need. And I thank God for grace, because He is that type of God, that type of Father, Savior, that will give you what you don't even know you need. And tonight, I feel like, I know for me, I was truly blessed. And I want us to end on a note, because I know Kim is clocking me. She's teaching me
I'm
how to
hungry.
be. She's hungry. She's teaching me how to be a better leader. She's teaching me how to be a better thought leader and just be able to show up in some space. So and show up great in spaces. And I love her for that. Listen, bring it on. That's how I'm able to grow. So we're going to end on a fun note because that story that Kim shared, albeit as important and substantive as it is, it made me like I just wanted to go and hug the world, right? Because that, yeah. So we're going to end with 30 questions under 60
All right,
seconds.
wait a minute. Okay, I'm ready.
You
All right.
guys know I introduced this new segment where we do check it or let it slide. But Kim, and just who she is, this deserves customization. So we are going 30 under 60 minutes. It's going
All
to be
right.
rapid fire. So let's go. Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I forgot to start my timer, but that's all right. All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
Both. Ah, take it or leave it. Go. Keep going.
Heels or sneakers?
Oh, heels.
What's your favorite guilty pleasure snack?
Woo, anything with sugar.
Favorite vacation spot?
Woo, St. Bart.
Do you prefer beaches or mountains?
Beaches any day.
Last show you binge watched? Favorite song on
Oh,
repeat?
sisters, sisters, sisters. I'm being sisters.
Favorite song on repeat right now?
Oh man. Oh my God. Oh, skip. Because I have so many.
Making up her own rules. We gonna skip. Who's your role model?
Mom.
If you weren't in your current career, what would you be doing?
Oprah.
What's your that should have been a gimme. What's your morning routine must have?
Oh, pray.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Don't major in the minors.
Worst advice you ignored?
I'm too colorful.
Yes. One word that describes you.
Passionate.
Biggest pet peeve.
Ugh. A lot. Ugh. A narcissist.
Favorite book.
Optimists always win, of course, by this fabulous author, Kimberly S. Reed.
There you go. Favorite app on your phone.
Facebook.
Dream dream car.
Oh, a driver.
One thing you can't leave home without.
My phone.
Your go-to stress reliever.
Oh, my comfy cloud couch.
First business lesson you learned the hard way.
My taxes.
One word that defines leadership for you.
Authenticity.
Who would play you in a movie?
Halle Berry.
What's your superpower?
Uh, oh, optimism. Duh.
What's most used emoji?
The middle finger. My girlfriends and I laugh. Yeah, it's just something we do. We crack up all the time when we say something crazy to each other. Yeah, I've been using that a lot. The last couple of days, we've been having so much fun. So, yep, that's
If you could have lunch with any person, dead or alive, who would it
Oprah.
be? Oh, we're gonna have to get you up. I'm getting ready to hashtag Oprah and Kim Reed. What keeps you motivated on hard days?
My mom.
One thing you want people to know about you.
I'm a daddy's girl now.
What legacy do you want to leave behind?
That I was kind
Oh,
and that I helped people. I helped people. And that there's was kind and loving and a good person and helped anyone that I could.
All right, last question.
Okay.
Complete this sentence. Success to me is.
Success to me is, geez, Terry. Um, God. So success to me is every step I take is for someone who needs hope, someone who never experienced joy, and someone who just needs to know that they're loved.
Amen. Well, that concludes our another episode of Terry Talks.
So
Um,
awesome, fun. Now I'm hungry. So hurry up with the closing. Hurry up.
Kim, how you've been a wonderful guest. Tell people how they can follow you and
Oh
keep
yeah,
up with all of the things that you are doing.
absolutely, absolutely. So I'm easy with some things. Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Kimberly S. Reed. Follow me. Love to have you.
All right, you go.
Optimus Always Win is our book, and it goes. The proceeds go to two cancer charities, and it's called Optimus Always Win. And let me know what you think.
Is it a website? Is it in your bios? Is it
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. If
okay?
people know, it's totally in my bio for sure. Or if they're not, somebody getting fired.
I know that's right. Well, thank you so much for gracing,
Uh-huh.
our
My
audience
pleasure.
with your presence. God bless you. Go get you something to eat. And until next week, guys, don't forget that God did not call us to a life that's full of stress, strain, struggle, and survival, but He called us to one that is filled with living, being, and thriving. Go be great. Bye.
Bye.
Kim, I thought you were going to do it. I thought you were going to do.
Oh, you should have told me. I sure
That's what I
would
was
have.
teeing you up for.
Bye. Bye, T.
Bye, Kim. I appreciate you. I love you, my dear.
Love you. Bye, honey.
Yo, we could have talked for days, but because we want you to join us next Tuesday for another episode of Terry Talks, that's it for today. Talk soon.